The story begins on a galactic marketplace built on a massive space station, a place where the air itself feels tainted by crime, desperation, and the scars of endless war. Ships from countless species dock here, their hulls battered from battles, their crews desperate to sell, trade, or beg for survival. This chaotic atmosphere sets the stage. The galaxy is unstable, dangerous, and filled with shadows. Into this environment steps Elias Kane, a human smuggler. He's not portrayed as a grand hero or a decorated commander, he's a survivor. His life is defined by debts, risks, and constant evasion of the more powerful forces in the galaxy. He's practical, cynical, and hardened by experience. Importantly, he's not here to save anyone or fight a noble cause. He's just trying to scrape together enough to last another week. His presence among shady traders underscores how far humanity has spread. Humans are no longer newcomers, but are part of the grit and desperation of interstellar life. While wandering through stalls of black market goods, illegal weapons, alien contraband, rare minerals, Elias comes across something unusual. A cage shoved to the side of a booth, holding not merchandise but a living being. Inside sits a young alien girl, silver-skinned, with faintly glowing eyes. Unlike the noise and shouting of the marketplace, she is utterly still, silent, and strangely calm. Her appearance immediately signals that she doesn't belong here. There's something different, almost otherworldly about her. The merchant, an insectoid trader with more greed than decency, dismisses her as worthless. He claims she is mute, broken, and unsellable. In this place, beings are treated like objects, and her silence has stripped her of any value. This reveals the cruel undercurrent of the galaxy. Life is cheap, and those who cannot fight or serve are discarded. Elias, at first, nearly walks away. He doesn't have credits to waste, and he's not in the business of rescuing strays. But something halts him. It's not logic or practicality, it's instinct. When he meets her eyes, he sees something that pierces through the hardened shell of his survivalist mindset. It's not just fear or despair. There's a spark, a hidden will buried beneath exhaustion. She's not broken, even if everyone around her believes she is. She's waiting for something or someone. That single moment defines Elias's character. Despite debts, despite his selfish instincts, he makes a reckless choice. He throws down his last credits, the money he needed to keep his ship fueled and his own life safe, and he buys her. To him, it feels irrational. To the merchant, it's a laughable deal. But to the girl in the cage, it's the beginning of everything. When Elias opens the cage, she doesn't resist. She doesn't even thank him, because she doesn't speak. She simply follows, silent and shadow-like, as if she already understands that this man is different from those who had imprisoned her. Elias doesn't know her name, her history, or her purpose. She's a complete mystery, but he can't bring himself to treat her as the merchant did. Back on his ship, she curls up in the bunk, small and fragile but watchful. Elias watches her, troubled. He doesn't know why he did it, and he doesn't know what to do next. He only knows that her presence changes something. The moment he brought her aboard, his life veered onto a new course, one that feels heavier, sharper, and far more dangerous than before. The part closes with Elias sensing an unspoken truth. He hasn't just purchased a mute alien girl. He has stumbled into a secret, something powerful and dangerous, and the galaxy will not let it go unnoticed. This realization is not spelled out, but the tension is thick. The feeling that the girl is far more than she seems, and Elias has just made a choice that will drag him into a conflict larger than himself. In essence, Part 1 is about chance and instinct colliding with destiny. A smuggler who lives day to day makes a decision not out of profit but out of humanity. That one act, buying the girl, ignites the central conflict of the story. The high-stakes opening isn't about a space battle yet. It's about a choice that feels small in the moment but carries immense consequences. Elias's decision to protect rather than exploit sets up the theme of humanity's greatest strength: compassion in a galaxy that has forgotten it. Part 2 shifts the tone from eerie tension to explosive action. The quiet, mysterious atmosphere of the trade gives way to chaos the moment Elias leaves the station with Lyra aboard his ship. The story wastes no time showing that her presence has already altered the course of his life, because within hours, predators are closing in. The attack doesn't come gradually. There's no warning beacon, no distant blip on sensors. A swarm of black-hulled warships simply drops out of faster-than-light travel, positioned perfectly to intercept him. This detail is crucial. It suggests that someone powerful not only knows Lyra's whereabouts, but has the means to track her with terrifying precision. For Elias, this isn't a random ambush, it's a manhunt. The pursuing ships are described like hunters, their formation tight and their weapons hot before Elias can even react. This isn't a test or an intimidation tactic. They want to erase him immediately. The pacing captures the overwhelming odds. A lone smuggler's freighter against a coordinated fleet. Elias knows he's outmatched, but his instincts, sharpened by years of surviving bad deals and close calls, kick in. He doesn't freeze or despair. He fights the only way he can, with speed, cunning, and the illegal modifications hidden in his ship. His vessel is no warship, but Elias has tweaked it over years of running from creditors and patrols. He throws it into maneuvers meant to snap his own bones, skimming asteroid fields and using every ounce of cover. Here, the narrative emphasizes human adaptability. Where other species rely on superior firepower or technology, Elias relies on sheer recklessness and improvisation. He has no chance in a stand-up fight, so he makes the void itself his ally. Lyra's role in this sequence adds another layer of intensity. She's not panicked like a child would be expected to be. She doesn't scream or cry as explosions rock the freighter. Instead, she watches. Her glowing eyes widen, not in terror but recognition. The implication is that she knows these ships, or at least the people who command them. They aren't strangers to her. They are her jailers or hunters. And she has lived with the dread of their return long before Elias ever opened her cage. The critical turning point of the chase comes when one of the warships corners Elias inside the asteroid belt. No maneuvering will save him now. The enemy has a lock, and a torpedo is already streaking toward his ship. Elias prepares for the inevitable, bracing for impact, when Lyra finally reveals what makes her different. Without speaking a word, without touching a console, she raises her hand. The torpedo doesn't just miss. It twists unnaturally in the void, like the laws of physics bent to her will, and slams into its own launching vessel. The explosion tears through the Zorath ship, scattering the others in shock. In that instant, the galaxy's cruel secret is laid bare. Lyra is no ordinary refugee. She has powers that defy logic, powers that turn the hunters' weapons against themselves. For Elias, the revelation is staggering. He didn't just rescue a mute child, he rescued something the most dangerous empire in the galaxy is willing to burn fleets to retrieve. But rather than feeling relief, he feels the weight of responsibility crash down on him. If they're this determined to take her back, then he's already marked for death. The only question is whether he'll keep running or stand with her. Lyra herself collapses after the display, drained of energy. This detail shows that her abilities are not limitless. She's powerful but vulnerable, and every use comes at a cost. That vulnerability makes her more than a weapon. She's someone who needs protection, someone who cannot survive this war alone. The escape that follows isn't triumphant. It's desperate. Elias wrings every ounce of power out of his ship, fleeing into the depths of space with enemies scattered but not destroyed. The implication is chilling. This was just the beginning. If they could find him so quickly once, they will find him again, and next time, he might not be so lucky. The pacing of Part 2 transforms the story from quiet mystery into high-stakes pursuit. It establishes the antagonist clearly, the black-hulled ships and their unseen masters, the Zorath Dominion. It reveals Lyra's extraordinary nature and why she is hunted, while also planting the seed of trust between her and Elias. She saved his life as much as he saved hers. Most importantly, it escalates the tension. Elias is no longer just a smuggler with a mysterious passenger, he's a fugitive carrying the galaxy's most wanted secret. By the end of Part 2, both he and the reader understand the scope of the danger. This isn't about a single girl anymore, but about the kind of power that can bend wars and shake empires. And Elias Kane, whether he likes it or not, has become part of that story. By the time Part 3 begins, Elias and Lyra have survived the first major pursuit, but survival doesn't give them answers. Elias is bruised, shaken, and running on instinct, while Lyra remains a mystery, silent, exhausted, and unreadable. The tension here shifts from external conflict to internal conflict. Elias must confront the fact that he knows nothing about the being he just risked his life for. The dynamic between them is layered. Elias is a practical man. He doesn't like mysteries because mysteries get you killed, yet he's also the kind of man who acts before he thinks. And now he's stuck with the consequences. His curiosity, mixed with frustration, drives him to demand answers. For the first time, the silent alien isn't just a presence on his ship. She becomes a subject of interrogation. The key moment is when Elias provides her with a tool to bridge the silence. A data slate. This act, though small, is symbolic. Elias isn't just trying to wring information out of her, he's giving her agency. He doesn't force her to speak in ways she can't. He gives her a way to express herself on her own terms. This subtle detail cements the bond that's forming between them. When Lyra writes her name for the first time, it's more than a label. It's the beginning of her reclaiming her identity. Up to this point, she has been the mute alien, or the girl. By writing Lyra, she is telling Elias and the reader that she is someone, not something. It's the first crack in her silence, a promise that her story is more than the galaxy believes. The next revelation deepens the scale of the conflict. Elias learns that the ships chasing them belong to the Zorath Dominion, a name that carries weight across the galaxy. The Zorath aren't just another enemy faction. They are a vast, oppressive empire known for cruelty, conquest, and the use of biological and technological experiments to fuel their dominance. They're feared not because of size alone, but because of the way they dehumanize, or rather despecies, every other race they encounter. Lyra's connection to them isn't loyalty, but victimhood. Through the words, she scrawls on the slate, "Prisoner. Experiment." The truth begins to surface. She wasn't born mute, wasn't always silent. She was taken, altered, and stripped of her natural life, reshaped into something the Zorath believed they could control. Her silence isn't just physical. It's the scar of captivity, the absence forced upon her by her oppressors. For Elias, this hits like a punch. He's not a soldier, not a rebel, but even he understands what it means. Lyra isn't just a lost child. She is living proof of the Zorath's crimes. More importantly, she is a weapon they created and failed to contain. Her powers, the same ones that destroyed their torpedo, are the very reason they will burn across the galaxy to hunt her down. This realization leaves Elias at a crossroads. On the one hand, he knows the logical path. Hand her over, get rid of her, or simply abandon her at the next outpost. It would save his life and maybe even buy him freedom from his debts. On the other hand, his instincts, the same ones that made him buy her cage, refused to let him go down that path. He's seen too much in her eyes to walk away. The most powerful layer of Part 3 is the theme of choice. Elias's smuggler's life has always been about reacting, improvising, and surviving one crisis after another. But Lyra forces him to think about something larger than himself. Protecting her isn't just suicide, it's defiance. By keeping her aboard, he's drawing a line against the most feared empire in the galaxy. The atmosphere at the end of this section is tense but resolute. Elias hasn't declared war, but he's made a personal vow. If the Zorath want Lyra back, they'll have to go through him. That's not a boast of strength, but an act of sheer human stubbornness. He has no fleet, no power, no allies, just his will. Yet that will, in HFY tradition, is what marks humanity as dangerous. Lyra's side of this moment is equally important. Though she hasn't spoken aloud, her actions show trust. She chose to write her name. She chose to share her past in fragments. She could have remained silent, withholding everything, but she didn't. She revealed the bare minimum of her story, enough to warn Elias of the danger and enough to let him know who she really is. That act of trust is the beginning of their partnership. In conclusion, Part 3 is the turning point where mystery becomes revelation, and Elias's role transforms from accidental rescuer to deliberate protector. The pace of the narrative ensures that stakes escalate. The enemy is no longer vague hunters, but the most dangerous power in the galaxy, and the mute girl is revealed as the centerpiece of their plans. The revelation is not just about who Lyra is, but about what Elias has become by choosing to stand with her. By Part 4, the story pivots from survival to resistance. Elias and Lyra are no longer simply running. They're becoming a threat worth mobilizing entire fleets against. The Zorath Dominion escalates the pursuit, not relying solely on their own warships, but turning the galaxy's underbelly against him. Every criminal syndicate, every mercenary crew, every scavenger hungry for credits hears the same message: capture the human smuggler, deliver the girl, and claim a reward that could buy empires. The scale of pressure around Elias explodes. Wherever he docks, eyes are on him. Conversations cut off when he enters rooms. Ships shadow him as he leaves orbit. This relentless attention forces Elias into a dangerous evolution. He can't stay invisible anymore. His old life as a smuggler depended on slipping through cracks, but the cracks are gone. Now he has to fight openly, and that shift reshapes his character. He's dragged from survivor to unwilling commander. What makes this section compelling is how Elias responds to being hunted. Instead of folding, he leans into humanity's strongest trait: adaptability. He doesn't try to fight the Dominion alone. He starts building a network. His allies aren't noble warriors or polished fleets. They're the discarded and the broken. Pirates who lost everything to Zorath patrols, deserters who saw the cruelty of their masters, and small colonies crushed under taxation. These are not ideal rebels, but they're desperate enough to follow someone reckless enough to challenge the Dominion. Lyra becomes the heart of this loose coalition. Though she still doesn't speak, her presence electrifies people. They see her strange powers in battle, an alien girl who can twist enemy fire and shut down targeting arrays with nothing but her will, and they rally behind her. She is living proof that the Zorath can be beaten, that their weapons can be turned back on them. And Elias, though reluctant, becomes her anchor, the one who speaks for her, shields her, and convinces others to join. The pivotal conflict of Part 4 is the ambush at the Veil Nebula. This setting isn't chosen at random. It's a battlefield wrapped in natural danger. Crimson gas clouds obscure sensors, radiation scrambles comms, and navigation is treacherous. The Zorath picked this ground deliberately. It traps Elias's fleet in an environment where their lack of discipline and weaker ships should doom them. Strategically, it's meant to be a massacre. The ambush shows the Dominion's ruthlessness. Dozens of warships strike at once, boxing in Elias's ragtag fleet. The difference in power is staggering. Sleek, disciplined cruisers against patched freighters and stolen corvettes. The Zorath expect surrender, panic, or annihilation. Instead, they face human stubbornness amplified by Lyra's abilities. The battle is raw chaos. Elias's ship darts through impossible maneuvers, punching holes in the Dominion formation. Allies who have nothing left to lose fight like berserkers, unwilling to flee even when the odds worsen. Lyra stands in the center, not with weapons but with willpower, twisting volleys of fire into useless detonations and turning enemy systems against themselves. Even without speaking, she commands the battlefield. But then the Zorath reveal their real weapon, the flagship. Emerging from the nebula's haze, it dwarfs everything else, bristling with firepower. Its presence crushes morale instantly. All the small victories of the skirmish vanish in its shadow. Even Lyra falters, her energy spent after holding back wave after wave. Elias realizes they cannot win a prolonged fight. The only option left is sacrifice. The command he gives, ramming speed, is more than a tactical decision. It's symbolic. Humanity, cornered and overpowered, will choose self-destruction over surrender. Elias is ready to burn everything if it means taking the enemy's symbol of dominance with him. This isn't the action of a smuggler anymore. It's the action of a leader willing to die so others can live. In that instant, his transformation is complete. The section closes on a knife's edge. Elias is driving his freighter headlong at a ship he cannot possibly destroy conventionally. His allies watch, stunned as he gambles his life and Lyra's future in a suicidal move. The suspense is suffocating. Will the human's defiance mean anything, or will it be erased in fire? Part 4 works as the story's ignition point for galactic-scale conflict. Up to this moment, the chase has been personal, Elias and Lyra against their hunters. Now it's a war, with fleets clashing and rebellions beginning to form around the example of human defiance. The Dominion isn't just trying to retrieve an experiment anymore, they're trying to crush the spark of resistance before it spreads. What resonates most is the inevitability of escalation. By protecting Lyra, Elias has gone from fugitive to figurehead. By fighting back instead of hiding, he's shown the galaxy that the Dominion can bleed. And by charging the flagship head-on, he embodies the core HFY theme. When cornered, humans refuse to bow. Even if it kills them, they'll choose to fight, and that choice is more dangerous to an empire than any weapon. Part 5 is the emotional and narrative crescendo. Everything leading up to this point, the rescue, the pursuit, the revelations, the ambush, has been pushing toward this moment where the impossible happens. It's not just about battleships or explosions anymore. It's about the breaking of silence, the first true bridge between Elias and Lyra. When the scene begins, Elias has already committed to ramming the Dominion flagship. It's a decision born of desperation, but also of principle. He knows their fleet cannot withstand the might of the flagship, and he refuses to allow the Dominion the satisfaction of capturing them alive. His choice embodies humanity's defining trait in this universe, the willingness to embrace death rather than servitude. For Elias, it's not about winning. It's about making their deaths meaningful. The tension spikes as the freighter barrels toward the monstrous warship. Systems fail one by one. The shields, battered from hours of fighting, are gone. Structural alarms scream. His crew, ragged and terrified, look to him for answers, but he has none. The only thing keeping them moving forward is his willpower. The hopelessness is overwhelming, and yet there's a strange calm in Elias's acceptance of the end. It's in this moment, on the edge of annihilation, that Lyra acts. For the first time, she doesn't just follow or fight silently at his side, she intervenes directly. She reaches for Elias, touching his arm, and her glowing eyes lock onto his. The simple act of contact cuts through the chaos like a blade. He's ready for death, but she's not ready to let him go. Then it happens, the voice. After chapters of silence, of writing in fragments, of bottling her existence in gestures and powers, she speaks. The word she gives him is small, but its weight is massive. Don't. It's not a plea of fear. It's a command, quiet yet resolute. It stops Elias in his tracks because it's the first time she's given him more than silence or symbols. The revelation here isn't just that Lyra can communicate, but how. Her voice doesn't come through her mouth. It echoes in his mind. She's telepathic, her silence not from inability but from restraint. Perhaps trauma, or even choice. Her first spoken word being to Elias at the brink of his suicidal charge signals trust. She's opening herself in a way she hasn't for anyone else, because he proved himself worthy of it. Lyra's next words go further. She tells him she can end the battle, but she needs him. This phrase is critical. It positions Elias not as her savior, but as her partner, her anchor. She may have extraordinary power, but that power risks consuming her. Without someone to ground her, she risks being lost in it. In choosing Elias, she isn't just revealing strength. She's revealing vulnerability. That duality makes her character come alive. She is both weapon and child, powerful yet fragile. The climax comes with her unleashing her full ability. Through Elias's presence anchoring her, she becomes a storm of energy. What the Zorath considered a failed experiment becomes their undoing. A wave of force explodes from her, not wild chaos, but precise destruction. Weapons melt, engines shatter, and the flagship itself breaks under the assault. It's not just physical damage, it's symbolic humiliation. Their greatest symbol of dominance is torn apart by the very being they sought to enslave. This act isn't easy for Lyra. She collapses afterward, drained and weak. This detail underscores that her powers aren't limitless. The choice to use them so fully carries a cost, and she accepts it because Elias believed in her. In her exhaustion, she isn't triumphant. She's vulnerable again, forcing Elias to catch her in his arms. The bond between them solidifies here. She gives him victory, and he gives her safety. For the fleet of allies, the spectacle is transformative. They didn't just survive, they watched the impossible. A mute, broken girl unleashed power that even the Dominion couldn't withstand. For beings crushed under Zorath oppression, this is more than a victory. It's a beacon. Hope is born in the flames of that destroyed flagship. For Elias personally, the moment is even deeper. When she spoke, he realized something profound. She chose him. Not out of convenience, not out of circumstance, but out of trust. Her first words were given to him, and with them the burden of responsibility. He isn't just protecting her anymore. He's tied to her fate. Whatever comes next, they're in it together. Part 5, then, isn't just a battle scene. It's the emotional payoff of the entire story's build-up. The silence that defined Lyra is broken. The despair that weighed on Elias is transformed into resolve. And the Dominion, once untouchable, is wounded by both. The climax proves the story's central theme, that what others see as weakness, silence, fragility, defiance against impossible odds, can become the strongest force in the galaxy when given the chance to rise. Part 6 functions as the resolution, the aftermath where the dust of war clears, leaving space for reflection, choices, and the seeds of a new future. After the chaos of destruction in Part 5, the tone shifts, less fire and fury, more weight of consequences. What Elias and Lyra did wasn't just a tactical victory. It reshaped the balance of power across the stars. The wreckage of the Dominion flagship drifts in silence. For the first time in the campaign, there's no barrage of enemy fire. The surviving Dominion forces, stunned and broken, scatter into retreat. Victory is theirs, but the battlefield feels more like a graveyard than a triumph. Elias surveys the scene, haunted by the price. Ships burn, bodies float. The void feels heavier than ever. Humanity and their alien allies may have won, but at what cost? This is where Elias's leadership shifts. Up until now, he was a fighter, making calls in the heat of battle, willing to sacrifice everything. But in victory, he has to become something else, a protector of the fragile hope that remains. The survivors looked to him not just as a captain, but as a symbol. They saw his ship charge a war fleet and come out alive. They saw him standing beside the alien girl who did the impossible. That image alone begins to ripple outward. Legends are born here. Lyra, though, is at the center of it all. Exhausted from unleashing her power, she lies weak in the infirmary. Her survival is uncertain, and for Elias, it feels like the cruelest twist. She gave everything to save them, and now she might not wake. He stays by her side, silently keeping watch. When she finally stirs, her faint smile reassures him in a way words never could. She doesn't need to speak often. The fact that she can changes everything. Her bond with him transcends words, but those few she gave him are now precious beyond measure. The broader galaxy reacts with shock. Rumors spread faster than ships can travel. The Dominion's flagship destroyed by a human freighter, aided by a mute alien weapon child who found her voice. Whispers rise among oppressed worlds. If the Dominion can be beaten once, they can be beaten again. Entire systems that once submitted out of fear begin to question their obedience. The victory is no longer a single battle. It's a spark of rebellion. For the Dominion, humiliation festers into rage. They underestimated both humanity and the girl they discarded. They vow retribution, and the war is far from over. But Elias doesn't see despair in that promise. He sees opportunity. Humanity has proven it can bloody the nose of giants. Now the task is to rally others before the Dominion regroups. Emotionally, Part 6 highlights Elias's transformation. He began as a weary smuggler captain, a man willing to throw his life away for one final strike. By the end, he carries something far heavier, responsibility for a new future. He doesn't just protect Lyra, he becomes the bridge she needs to face her past and wield her future. Where once she was voiceless, she now begins to speak, not often, not loudly, but when it matters most. Her words are deliberate, careful, powerful. They guide him as much as he guides her. One key moment comes when Lyra, still frail, whispers to Elias that she is not a weapon but a person. That single statement reframes everything. The Zorath built her to be a tool of war, an experiment of control. Elias, however, treats her as family, as a child with her own will. By speaking those words, Lyra rejects the identity forced upon her. She isn't a failed experiment. She's alive. She chooses who she is, and she chooses Elias and the future they will shape together. The park closes with a sense of unresolved tension. The Dominion is still out there regrouping. The war will continue. But the tables have turned. Humanity isn't hiding in shadows anymore. They've carved their name into history with blood and fire, and they've done it with a girl who was once considered voiceless. The galaxy will never see them the same way again. Elias knows they've only won a reprieve, not peace. Yet for the first time in years, he feels something he thought he'd lost. Hope. Not blind optimism, but real, tangible hope. He sees it in the resilience of his crew. He sees it in the whispers of rebellion across the stars. And most of all, he sees it in Lyra. This fragile, powerful being who defied the impossible to speak, and in doing so, gave him a reason to keep fighting. The closing image lingers on the two of them together. Not captain and cargo, not soldier and weapon, but man and girl, survivors of impossible odds, standing at the dawn of a rebellion. Her hand slips into his, small but steady, and though the stars ahead promise more blood and fire, they will face it together. Part 6 doesn't wrap things in a neat bow. Instead, it ends on a note of endurance and defiance, the hallmark of humanity's place in HFY tales. The war is far from won, but victory or defeat matters less than this truth. Humanity doesn't bow, and neither does the girl who finally found her voice.